Well, good morning. This is Liberty on Caffeine. It's the post-election day broadcast for us. This is my partner in crime, Jeff Harper. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Well, it's no surprise to anyone that's out there that we still have no, official conclusion to what's going on. But I was looking back at some of the programs that we had earlier, and we pretty much said exactly what's going on right now. That it was going to most likely be Trump's election, but that it wasn't going to come out that way because of the different things that are coming up for the irregularities in the voting. And gee, who could have seen that coming 3 months ago?
Yeah, when they, started changing all the rules 90 days before the election, who could imagine that the election wasn't going to come out as it had in the past? It's amazing to me, actually.
Yeah. Every time there seemed to be a close election, here's a little clip that came to mind.
And now...
Hey, Rocky! Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
I think every time there was something close, they were pulling rabbits out of the hat. But it wasn't even clever rabbits. I mean, these were ridiculous.
Well, when you control the education system and manufacture people that will believe anything you say and do, then you can say and do anything, and that's basically what's happened here. I would say that voter fraud's probably been around since voting has existed. As soon as you had your first, let's say, when you vote in private, it's not open where people don't see what you. I would say from the very first one of those, we probably had voter fraud.
Yeah.
That's not a new concept, but it hasn't reached the levels that we're experiencing today.
Well, let's get into the specifics and into the weeds right after we run our intro.
We want to get it on because we don't get along. We want to get it on because we don't get along.
What up? What up? Oh, yeah. Well, here I stand with the mic in my hand, and I will pray to the Lord. I do the best that I can, 'cause in a world where possession is a question of a man's word, but we all are the same in church. So I'm sticking around, and I'll be drinking it down. I'll be kicking my sound as I can smoke it. Never quit because it makes my family grow. I'll be just me out of this one more time, and I say, can you help me? Can you help me get the hell out of here? Can you help me? Can you help me get the hell out? One for the money and two for the show. Three to get ready to bust down. You're doing it. The one for the money and two for the show. Three to get ready to bust down. You're doing it. The boom boom pack of my screws got so back. I never ever quit. People hitting my tap with the boom boom pack of my screws got so back. I never ever quit. People hitting my tap.
Well, we're back. We're going to get into the specifics. Now, one of the first things that really jumped out to me that was going to be beyond denial was Wisconsin. More votes than registered voters.
That's like everything else is disputed. Some people say that the voter registration was open until the final day or something, and that the numbers were from the prior 2016 or whatever. What strikes as most compelling to me was the hidden cameras that were done by Project Veritas and showed ballot harvesting. It's all about the money. Guy in his car holding all of these stacks of ballots in his hands, talking about it's all about them. And then the person turns around and claims that they were bribed with $5,000 to make that. I'm sorry, but I have a hard time believing that someone is going to admit to a felony on a recording for a $5,000 bribe.
That's it. Well, and speaking of Project Veritas, who came up with some brilliant stuff, they also had the exposure of the USPS, the postal worker, who
Yes.
gave it up. I think was that in Michigan?
I think so. I think it was.
Yeah, where they post
They took the
predated
Yeah.
ballots, and that the postmaster of the facility came in early to do the stamping instead of just a clerk like would normally be done.
Mhm.
Um,
Correct.
They even called his supervisor and asked him the question, and the supervisor hung up. Surprise,
Yes.
surprise. No denial there at all. Again, it's blatant, but I don't.
Also,
Yeah, go ahead.
Project Veritas had evidence from an employee or a worker for a Republican local politician who was
Yeah.
ballot harvesting,
Yep.
and was saying right on the hidden camera that she would go to jail for what she was doing. And then
Yeah.
after the fact, once the video was released, also claimed that she was bribed to say those things. Now, I have a hard time believing that, again, she's going to admit to a felony, much
Mhm.
less implicate her employer in a felony, lie about it for a few $1,000s.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
so it's hard for me to believe that the person who's supposedly committing the crimes then turns around and says they were bribed to claim they were committing crimes that they didn't do. I mean,
Well, and the other thing that seems to be lacking is the lack of investigations that are going on to all of these problems that are going out. I don't care if it's on what political party or what political person's side. Any type of vote fraud invalidates the entire system. It condemns everything that we've got and everything that it stands for. It's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. It has no teeth to it when your vote doesn't count. And now it shows the brilliance of having a system in a republic that has
checks and balances.
and even the electoral college. It exposes the needs for those things greater than the claims of one person, one vote, because usually it's one person, special interest, two votes. So,
well, you know, personally, I think that because of the fact that a politician happens to be one of the top 10 careers for psychopaths today, that the type of people that we are being given choices from the two parties between are both psychopaths and both more likely to be involved in this voter fraud than if they were actually putting up people with more moral, higher moral character and a similar belief system to the founding principles of the country.
and it seems like they're building criminal families too. If they're not in power, they're also going to get their entire family in power.
Nepotism.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it with the foundations that they create that funnel money from foreign governments to getting their kids and brothers involved in foreign business ventures.
Yeah, just because I can't be receiving money from a foreign country's government doesn't mean I can't have my child working for them getting money. You know, that's
right.
But let me point out one thing regarding this voter fraud. That's pretty much to me the biggest telltale sign. And historically in elections, the variance between the vote count and the actual is somewhere between 2 and 5% on average.
Yeah.
Now at 5%, that's quite a bit, because if you take a 5% minus from 1, that's a 5% plus that's actually a 10% swing.
Right.
And a race that's closer than 10%, the person who wins isn't necessarily the person who should have won because of that 5% variance.
Yeah.
And this election, statisticians have been showing 8 and 12% variance in some areas.
Yeah.
which means that's a 12% variance is a 24% swing.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're up 62% to 40 or to 38%, and they say, "Oops, we messed up by 12%." All of a sudden, it's 50. That's 24%. That's a quarter of the entire votes could be completely wrong.
Exactly. Well, and now, if I'm not mistaken, the pollsters had Biden ahead, and percentage-wise by a huge, wide gap. Again, the same as we had Hillary back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
What's the future for these polling companies and pollsters? They don't seem to have any accurate information or be able to prognosticate anything for these elections. Is it they're just going to be, are they just going to be used as, again, propaganda tools prior to elections, or are they just going to go away until they can actually be accurate?
Well, until the government education system is done away with, and you don't have radical leftist teachers in the schools and professors in the college telling these children that socialism works and that a limited republic is dead.
Yeah.
That our founders were the evil ones, and that people like Che Guevara are the angels. Then we're not going to fix this problem. Education is the key to liberty. And our children aren't being educated.
That's true.
Now, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. And we've let that go to the point to where we've allowed 100 plus years of Keynesian economics, central banking, socialist ideologies, liberal teachers unions, radical leftists, leftover hippies, educating our children, feeding them lies. None of this is ever going to get solved until we retake the education system and we rebuild the culture based on the morality of the Christianity taught in the Age of Reason.
And is the horse already out of the barn, as far as they've already stocked up? They built up a large federal government. They've made it enlarged beyond belief, and then stockpiled it full of like-minded socialist believers in all the key positions. So it doesn't seem like that we have any way of even being in leadership, if we've got the proper leadership in there, to get people to follow that leadership to do the right things.
Well, you're stock full of these people, and the source is two private political groups: the Republicans and the Democrats. They've been in control since over 150 years.
Yeah.
And neither of them has reduced government. Neither of them has reduced taxes. Neither of them. Now, I will admit that prior to COVID-19, Trump was doing that. He was removing regulations, reducing income taxes, implementing tariffs to protect jobs and industry, and to create more level playing fields, or even advantageous for us. I mean, these other countries aren't going to not try to make an advantage for themselves and the trade deals. There's nothing wrong with us doing the same.
True.
But, until we get the two-party system removed, which requires people to understand how dangerous it is, requires an actual education system, we're not going to get anything except for the choice that those two offer us. And you don't even get the opportunity. Ron Paul is probably the last truly libertarian that will ever run under a Republican ticket, because they've changed the rules to make sure nobody else can get in.
Well, that's exactly it. And I'm sure they're going to change them even further because for the
2024
elections, simply because even the 1.1% now is becoming more and more pertinent in these swings. I don't know if I've been accused of trying to subvert both sides simply by asking people to vote their conscience.
Right.
Now, in reality, if my argument is, if we didn't have a choice of a third party, they'd be disenfranchised and wouldn't have voted for either one of the people that were there anyway. So it wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't like any of the candidates this year. There are a couple of things in the Libertarian Party platform we've discussed before that I disagree with.
Yeah. And
it really keeps, because they go directly against sovereignty of a country and inalienable rights of humans.
Right.
But so I really didn't see a candidate that I would have wanted to vote for. And the reason that Trump doesn't qualify isn't because of what he did for the last 3.5 years, but what he's done in the last 6 months and what his plans are if he's reelected, which includes tuition reform and government health care. So you have all the socialism we've had in 6 months, more of it coming up in the future from the conservative president, all of the gains and benefits that we had seen from the 3.5 years of reducing taxes, regulations, implementing tariffs. All of the gains disappeared. They all ended up in the bank's pockets. They all ended up buying. The bank didn't use our money. They just get 6% dividends being in part of. So they just use those, but buying limited amounts of stocks and bonds.
Yeah.
Our balance sheet dropped $3.5 trillion. Theirs went up $3.5 trillion. Their assets.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. We got a little bit off the subject. So far as the voting goes, what's another key element, in my opinion, to prove that there's too many issues this time around is the fact that they're finding so many errors that are having to be corrected now. A gentleman lost in a heavily Republican area, and I think it was Los Angeles, California.
Yep.
Come to find out, one of the voting districts accidentally sent in the mail-in votes, counted them again as walk-in vote, double counted them.
Yeah.
It was corrected, and he ended up winning. The original mistake was made by a Republican. The correction was caught by a Democrat. So those were people that actually have morals, cared about the outcomes, and did the right thing.
Yeah.
That's not the case in a lot of these other situations. Oh, gee, we found another computer error that gave Biden 6,000 votes extra in this. These are not isolated.
No.
I think that when it comes to the presidential race, all of the mistakes have seemed to favor the Democrats, and the corrections had to have been made in favor of the Republicans.
True.
There's too many computer errors, input errors by the pollers, software errors that are being caught now. What about the ones that aren't being caught?
That's true.
So between the changes in the laws 90 days before the elections, mail-in voting is not secure. There's no way to verify who sent that in, what house it came with. The people still live at the house that it was mailed to.
Oh, yeah.
The mail-in voting is the least secure method ever, and it's been implemented widely. You have computer errors. You have vote counting places that don't allow individuals that are supposed to be watching the vote within 30 feet. How are you going to verify a signature when you're 30 feet away?
That's true. Well, since you mentioned that, let me play a clip from a fellow that's talking about fact checks.
No volume.
Wonder why you can't hear that, because I've got it blaring for me.
I heard the one before, and the ones we did last 2 weeks ago didn't show up on the live stream either. So you probably aren't getting to the audience either at this point. Okay,
well, I'll go ahead and end it then. Anyway, I had a fellow that had a little bit of a video here. I don't know why we're having problems with the share screen. Probably it's the volume problem that we're having on this. Right now, why don't we go ahead and do one of our little PSAs.
Braxton was diagnosed with choroid plexus carcinoma, a brain tumor. St. Jude is helping us put away our fears. We have an amazing team that fights for the best outcome for Braxton. He has the best chance here. I don't have to worry that how much is that bag of fluid going to cost me? Can I afford it to save my child's life? The donations, they're paying for me to live every day with my son, stress-free. and enjoy every day with him. I wish there was a word bigger than thank you, more close to the heart, because thank you's not enough. They've given me hope. They've given me my son.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Well, just a little bit of a synopsis on the video I was going to play. This gentleman brought up for anybody to check the voter registration and votes that were sent in from a database that they have online in Michigan. And it had over, not 1,000, I think he said 10,000 voters who had requested mail-in ballots and mailed them in. The problem was that their birth dates had them over 110 to 113 years old. Now,
I believe the oldest one was born in 1850, I think.
Yes. And the fact checkers came back and had an explanation as to, well, not all of those votes that were sent in were counted, but how can we verify that? And secondly, that if there's a difficulty seeing the date of birth on the mail-in vote, that they automatically would put in 1900 for the year.
Mm-hmm. So how do you verify that the person who's mailing it in actual date of birth if you're using 1900? And
so this gentleman, after he had this thing where his information was debunked, came back and said, okay, explain to me this. How come when I ran the names of these people, they were deceased?
Right.
Crickets. And I'm sure we're not going to hear. It seems like the game is, let's get away with it now and then get our person in office and then hope that all of this goes away.
Oh, it will, because he can do presidential pardons if he's elected.
Oh,
Hunter Biden will be pardoned, and they don't pardon by crime. They can blanket pardon a period of years. They could say Hunter Biden's pardoned, and this isn't as if these crimes were committed and they were found not guilty, or that this is as if nothing had ever been committed, and you couldn't even bring charges against them if you wanted to. So once these people get into office, everything they've done, except for possibly the president himself, which by then he'll have been replaced for his mental instability.
Yeah.
But he'll pardon all these people, and then nothing can ever be done about it. There is a third type of interference in elections that I wanted to bring up. And of course, that's outside influences. I can't think off the top of my head or provide any evidence today regarding involvement from other countries in our elections. But it's a given that we interfere with theirs, they interfere with ours. They pay for advertising for who they want to win. We pay for advertising for who we want to win in their country. True. Then you also have, the big thing is you also have these individuals. I spent almost an hour this morning having a discussion with an individual who was telling me how democratic socialism would be a benefit for my country because it helps Sweden and Canada. I said, well, why aren't you in Sweden or Canada? Why do I have to change the place that I live and was born and raised in to fit what you want when you're telling me there's countries out there that already offer it? Well, lo and behold, this lady turns out to be from Brazil. Okay. Yeah. So Brazil is such a great country. They have the world's largest barrios, villas, slums in the entire world. Yeah. You can't leave Sao Paulo airport during the daytime out of fear of being robbed outside of the airport. And she's going to tell me that what they're doing in their country is a benefit for mine, that I should be following her example?
No. Well,
my wife was born in Argentina and spent half of her life living under a dictatorship before they established a constitution. And this girl has the nerve to get involved in our politics and come on social media and tell me what's good for my country. She doesn't even live here. She doesn't have to face the consequences of her choices and what she's spreading to these lies she's spreading to people.
That's true.
So it's not.
That's true.
It's not just the poll workers, the candidates, the terrible statistics, the video evidence, the lack of transparency during the counting process. It's also outside influences.
True.
And when you add all of that together, I don't care who wins. There's no way to prove that they won, period.
Yeah. And that just kind of invalidates the credibility of our government completely.
Correct. And the only way to fix it, like I said, education, the most secure form of voting ever known were paper ballots, period. Voter IDs are supposedly illegal because they harm minorities. But yet these same people who said that require an ID to get into their buildings.
Yeah. And most of the minorities are not the ones that are saying that. It's usually white, suburban, leftists.
Yeah,
say it.
I know you're from what state did you originally live in?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. It's a pretty big farming area up in there, right? Got some cheese farms and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So don't doubt that, and maybe you have less of it there because it was formed as a state later. But in South Carolina, we certainly do have elderly that were born at home and never issued birth certificates and so forth. But those same people have been that way their entire life.
Yeah.
That there's no guarantee that they're even coming out to vote. But the point is that they can't go to the Democrat national headquarters and walk through the door without an ID.
Yeah.
So how are they going to claim that it is discrimination when they do the exact same thing to get into their own building?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's very true. That's very true.
What we need to do is go to voting in person on a paper ballot, verified by an ID.
Well, let's take a small break, and then afterwards, let's talk about what we think is going to happen. Be little prognosticators on what we think is going to happen here, and what we think, along with paper ballots, what we think help prevent this kind of stuff happening in the future.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. Be the someone who gives their time. Be the someone who lends an ear. Be the someone who takes a step. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, asking you to join the fight against sexual violence and volunteer in your community. Log on to RAIN.org, that's RAINN.org, to learn how you can be the someone.
This message brought to you by the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network and this station.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please press like, subscribe, and then share them with your friends. We would greatly appreciate any financial support you can give us. Go to porcupinepundit.com and become a patron or a supporter. You can also buy stuff from us at our Freedom Swag shop. Yeah, a little shameless self-promotion going on there.
Well, we need it.
Yeah, we do desperately. I have been temporarily out of work for a while, and this is it. I've had a hilarious run of trying to get the unemployment payout. I got approved for unemployment right away, and it's been almost 4 weeks until I still haven't seen one cent come in for it. So,
well, the good news is if you applied and it took a long time to qualify you or approve you, then you're probably going to get a larger amount at one time. But again, I would prefer that we open our country and be able to work and make a living, man. You know?
Amen. Yeah, that's true.
We're forced into this unemployment because the government forced us to close our private businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Where did they get the authority to do that?
They didn't. They didn't. Somehow we allowed it to happen, and it's just amazing.
You can go to YouTube and watch guys go to county and state and federal buildings seeking access without masks, being told they're not allowed to. And then they finally are allowed to go in without their masks because there is nothing to back up the law. They can't arrest them. They can't do anything to them.
No.
So So what's happening right now is voluntary,
Mhm.
and the government's acting like it's mandatory. They're lying to the people, and it's a control thing. The areas that don't have masks, social distancing, other countries, states within America have similar results to the ones wearing masks. The peaks and valleys are very similar, almost identical, except as later stages, theirs are tailing off because they've actually created some herd immunity.
Yeah. All of a sudden, Sweden doesn't sound so good to the socialists.
Well, yeah, and they would never were a democratic socialist country in the first place, according to their former president. So
they
it's not even a good example.
Like they said, they tried it, it didn't work, and they reversed it.
Well, yeah, their number one and number two and number three companies all of a sudden started falling severely, and they had to reduce taxes in order to stimulate the economy. So not only do you have proof there that masks don't work, you have proof that high taxes don't stimulate the economy.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to say, getting back to what we're going to say about the election, I think that the corruption is going to keep steamrolling until the powers that be, the big powers, get their person into government. Then I think they're going to have a big, we're going to forgive everybody who did all of the voter corruption, but we're going to prevent that from happening in the future. And then they're going to come up with even more regulations and ridiculous things to supposedly keep the voting open for all Americans, yet be more stringent, which is going to be more loopholes and more weird crap for exactly more voter fraud. I think it's going to get worse from what's going on than better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Another top 10 career for sociopath is, surprise, surprise, attorney.
Yeah.
Now, how many of our politicians were former attorneys on top of that? Another big surprise. So this next stage that we're going into is lawyers, positive law, and billable hours, which is a bigger shit show than any election you've ever watched in your entire life, including this last one.
Yeah.
It only gets worse when you add in these guys too.
Oh, yeah.
So what we're doing now isn't going to get better. It's only going to get to be a bigger show, a bigger mess, more problems, because you're not dealing with natural law. You're dealing with positive law and lawyers and billable hours.
Yeah. And they're going to keep growing the legislation books, making it more confusing. And I think I've also discussed the fact that we've got so much double legislation, which means, or double negative legislation, where you have one law or interpretation of law that is counteractive to a second piece, and they keep those both active in order to target people, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If they want to get you, they're going to get you.
And that's the positive law aspect. Natural law is timeless and unchanging, never varies. The right to life, don't lie, cheat, rob, or steal, don't covet. Basic tenets that never change. But these things that are getting introduced now are the man-made positive laws or statutes. And that's where you get your conflict, because man-made laws can change at the whim of any man.
Yeah.
And that's what your lawyers are going for, because that's the part of the law that gives you all of the gray areas that they can make those extra billable hours for. And then, of course, just the existence of these statutory laws makes their demand much higher to deal with them anyway. You get more arrests, you get more courts, you get more suits, you get more. And these are the guys, these lawyers and these psychopaths that become the politicians are the ones that are creating this for their lawyer buddies.
True.
So it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse now once these court shows start than it ever was during the actual election process.
I also predict that we're going to have more centrist protests that are going to be portrayed as being right-wing, fascist, Nazi protests, but it's going to be more like the Tea Party protests, and they're going to be huge. They're going to be big.
And that all goes back again to education. to the far right is not fascism, it is anarchy. The absence of all government and law is ultimate liberty, and the right side is liberty leaning. All of these things that they're claiming to the right are nothing but their belief systems being projected onto us.
Onto us. That's correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So when they say, I don't know, you're going to have a lot of moderates out there. I think your moderates, many of them are their leaders in government are also anti-Trump, for the majority. These guys want to keep the status quo. They have made a good living off of our backs by being politicians. They don't want to give up their power. They don't want to give up their money. They don't want to give up their control just for our convenience. But these moderates, I don't think you're going to see moderates out. You're going to see right-leaning people upset.
Well, I guess I should clarify. I don't think I'm talking about. I'm talking the moderate public, the people that are not part of a party, the independents, the people that usually I would say don't really give a damn. I think some of those people will join in on some of those protests, just like the Tea Party protests back in the day. Yeah.
Well, it's my belief, and I do disagree with you a little bit here, because I have a feeling that everybody believes in something, whether they want to admit it or not. Everybody has a basic philosophy they follow in life, including the moderates.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They've already made up their mind. Many of them are tuned into the televisions, and many of them are listening to Mitch McConnell's, what was the last Speaker of the House name? Didn't want to work on Saturday or Sunday if he got appointed House Speaker. These guys, they're not true Republicans. They're not true Democrats. But they still have a belief system somewhere. They've already made up their mind. So they're going to, and I think majority of them are not going to protest. That's just my opinion. I think that the left went to far radical left. So the center on the number line had to move to the left as well, because the middle moved further left.
Okay.
So you don't have your moderates, your Kennedy supporting type moderates that you used to have. These guys, it's a whole different breed, and they're much more socialistic in the middle than they ever were before.
So describe to me who you think the protesters are going to be. Is it going to be people like you and I that are just fed up with this, or what are the people that are going to go out? And when I'm saying protest, I mean real protest, peaceful protesting that we saw in the past.
Well, I think that I don't know that you're going to see a lot of protests from the right on any of this, to be honest. I don't think we saw it at any other time that we've had discrepancies or issues. They seem to be more inclined to sit back and complain than actually take any kind of action or force.
Well, then who were the Tea Party protesters back in the day?
Well, the Tea Party protesters are probably a lot of your libertarians today. But your libertarians, especially, I can speak more on this area than in nationally, also have started to include people like the anarcho-capitalists, who believe that you can do without any kind of government and control everything only through contracts with individuals. Well, I don't know if you've lived in an HOA before or not, but they really don't seem to work well when you have individuals dealing only in contracts without any kind of oversight from the government. So I think that the libertarians aren't going to be out protesting very heavily. I think the Libertarian Party's attraction has been lost somewhat through the injection of the anarcho-capitalists into the party. And I think they also pandered to Black Lives Matter prior to this election to try to get some of their membership in. And they're doing open border super PACs between the Koch brothers and George Soros. So I don't really see any support coming from your Tea Party grassroots movement people.
So you
they don't have a Ron Paul to pull for either.
So you disagree with me? There are not going to be any protests then after this?
There may be, but they're not going to be on the scales of what we've seen from the Democrats, mainly because those were heavily funded by, in my opinion, the banks. The only people that had the money to do this and try to push this world agenda on us.
Mhm.
So you're not going to have the funding. Eventually, I think it's going to go either one of two ways. We're going to end up in tyranny, because I think that the socialist programs are being implemented faster than they're getting removed. You're getting multiple years of socialists in office for 4 years of conservatives.
Mhm.
So it's either going to end up destroying the country or in civil war. I don't see peaceful protest. I don't see psychopaths giving a care if you're out in the street protesting or not, to be honest.
Wow.
So I don't see a large number of it, and I don't see any results from it, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, let's do, excuse me, another short PSA, and then we'll wrap it up for today.
Braxton was diagnosed with choroid plexus carcinoma, a brain tumor. St. Jude is helping us put away our fears. We have an amazing team that fights for the best outcome for Braxton. He has the best chance here. I don't have to worry that how much is that bag of fluid going to cost me? Can I afford it to save my child's life? The donations, they're paying for me to live every day with my son, be stress-free, and enjoy every day with him. I wish there was a word bigger than thank you, more close to the heart, because thank you's not enough. They've given me hope. They've given me my son.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Well, excuse me. I think everybody's gotten the gist of what we're talking about today. We've got an election that really hasn't decided anything. It's not a true election. The votes really aren't being represented. This isn't representative of anything in this country. I think we can agree on that.
Absolutely.
I think that if anybody disagrees with us on that, please text us, email us, leave a comment. Even if you're just seeing an extra a rebroadcast of this, just let us know what you think and so on. Let us know what you think about if there's going to be any reaction or counter reaction after this. Jeff and I kind of have a disagreement on that. What is your stand on that? And please, if you have a chance to, give us some support, give us some love if you have a chance to also. We'd really love to have something like that. Anything you want to do for some parting words, Jeff?
Well, I just spoke about actions, and if you guys would help us out, purchase some merchandise, send some donations, we can buy some more equipment and be more active in the community. We can go out and get some questions answered that people may not be asking or not wanting to answer.
And
put some fire to people's feet and force them to deal with things that they want to ignore and that our local news doesn't cover.
And we hope that at some point in time, when all this COVID stuff is lifted, we'll be able to get into a location where we can do these live and have a little bit more interaction with people. So with that, I want to thank you again for another wonderful Liberty on Caffeine. You take care.
Thank you.